Hello, hello. Good morning to everyone, and may not be morning when you listen to this, but welcome to the Why So Serious podcast. We are your hosts. Myself is Sean, sometimes called Showtime, and John Quamatron. What are we talking about today, Quamatron?
Well, first of all, good morning, good evening, good night to everybody out there. Hope you're doing well. This is Mother's Day. Um, and today we decided to talk about mindset. This is a very divisive conversation for some, um, but really your mind. How do you do what you do? But we're also going to break it down and talk about mindset in terms of employee versus a business owner.
Hmm.
Both of them, they do have some risks. One is obviously larger than the other, but we're going to get into that.
Right, right. We were saying like even more specifically, like that money mindset, right? Is what we're is and there's a lot of questions about that. I mean, I know this is a topic that we've you and I again, like a lot of these podcasts that we do, um, topics that we've talked about on the phone, right? We just um, as we've grown and matured, different things become more important, right? And not that it's not when we're talking about money, it's not the money is everything kind of
But
mindset
having it
because
is,
right. Well, let's just keep it real,
that,
okay?
that's just
Money is
Kanye.
everything.
Kanye said that. He's like,
Yeah.
um, oh man, I forgot exactly what he said, but he's like, money's not everything, but having it is. Like, it's a different world when you have money
Yeah.
versus you're chasing money.
Yeah, true. True. I mean, and I think that sort of begs we have to ask that question right off the bat then, like, what when we're talking about a money mindset, what is that? Right? Is it,
Hmm.
different people might have a different idea off the bat. Um I think you and I are on the same page with that, but I think some people's idea of a money mindset is basically I just want to be rich and I want to have a big house and I want to drive I want to drive a Benz, and just it comes down to like this is like a list of material things that you want. But what's your definition there, Quamatron? What are we talking about?
My definition of a money mindset um, really is talking about the kind of relationship I want to have with money. Um, really, when I talk about money mindset, now I'm looking at, investment mindset, business mindset, ownership mindset. So they all have a cost or a price to them. But I think for me, it really boils down to, what are my goals in life and how do I want to achieve them when it comes to the realm of money.
Yeah, yeah, no, that makes sense. I think I feel like it's maybe not enough people have that, um, and even for me personally, I think it's something that happened. I don't want to say that recently, but I mean, again, as I think as we maybe it's one of these things as we mature, right? As we get a little bit older. I mean, when you're in your 20s, like after you come out of high school, a couple of years, I don't know how many people. I mean, I admire people if they are at that level, and you and I know a few guys, even as part of the squad that were in that. I think like my brother Daryl, I think,
Yeah.
and our friend Mo, like those guys early on were in that mindset. They were like, this party and stuff. You know what, guys? I think I need to start thinking about this other stuff like way down the road, right? Like if you're
Right.
thinking about, and it's
But
hard
I
because a lot of
mean,
us,
I disagree, Sean. I think you and I, we already were thinking business very early
yeah,
on
yeah,
with
yeah, yeah.
our socials. I think we were the first.
Okay, maybe,
I
yeah.
think,
I
I
mean,
think, yeah, we got to go deep, man.
that's
Sean and
true.
I, we were. with our crew called the Skin Squad, and
Mm.
then later just the squad, we would put on, social events, and that's
Yeah.
where our event planning careers kind of started.
Yeah.
But we put on like serious jams in Winnipeg, serious jams, like we were known.
Right.
Um, and I think the height of the Skin Squad is when young ladies said, excuse me, Comatron, but how do we become squad girls?
Yeah.
And they were like talking about initiating, like, how do we get into this club here? We want to be like squad girl. I was like, oh wow. And what they were talking about, well, let's keep it PG over here.
All right.
Um,
All right.
but we've been
What are you
we've
doing
been
down there? What are you doing down
yeah, we've been thinking about
there?
business, I would say, since the mid 90s.
Yeah. Probably.
Um, but talking about mindset, I think we got to talk about the foundation of where we started. So what
Hmm.
I'm talking about is our parents, they're thinking on money.
Right.
Um, and then also our schooling, they're thinking on money. And I can tell you that a lot of parents, it was get a job for 30 to 50 years, retire,
Yeah.
and you're done. School was teaching us get a job for 30 to 50 years, pension, you're done.
Yeah.
And
I know my
then,
parents were like that for sure.
yeah. And I think something happened where we were influenced by certain people and
Mm.
they said, hey, there's another way to look at this. Sean, what's your experience with growing up and money? Like, what was your thinking on that?
Oh man, if I'm thinking back, like just with again, I said it on another podcast, but growing up in a full house, right? Four of us, four boys. Whenever I say four boys, one of the most common response I get is, "Oh, your poor mother, your
Yeah,
poor mother." And I'm like, "Oh man, she was lucky, lucky mom." But
yeah,
grew up with of course at first it was all of us in the house, my mom, my dad, um, and then the four of us. And but from what we were taught growing up, it was always like, and everybody's heard it, right? You're in the car driving somewhere, and it's as a kid, you're like, "Oh, mom, look, it's McDonald's. Can we go to McDonald's?" Like, you have McDonald's money? You have some McDonald's money? Like, no. We have food at home.
we
Well,
got
why can't
Wendy's
we
money.
ever? Why can't we ever go to McDonald's? Maybe next time. No, no, we're not going to McDonald's. You have food at home, but we don't have like a Big Mac, mom, or like fries. I'll get fries. We'll do fries at home. Like, mom, it's not the same. Mom,
Uh,
please. It's like, and then you only realize once you got older, right? It's like, okay, then you think about like my parents and even my mom right now to this day. Again, I don't know if it's partly a Winnipeg mentality, but I think also on top of the Winnipeg mentality, this the Caribbean mentality, and as far as the time that she grew up in, um, just like everything is like, like you have cupboards with cans full of stuff, and it's like, do you need all this stuff? Like, what is this stuff for? It's like this was on
Really?
sale. They have these on sale today at Superstore for $1.59.
Yeah.
So I might need you to help me out load it up the trunk in the car. Like, wait, for soup? Like, how often do you even buy that soup, mom? Like, you need, okay, I'm
Yeah.
gonna load this up. It's like, are you expecting some sort of like? Did you know about COVID back then? There was this
I was
this
about to say
pandemic.
pandemic, man. I was about to say it.
Did you know this pandemic was gonna happen? Like, but I mean, it was just that mentality was just like, and it's not necessarily the worst mentality, but it was like save, save, save. Be like extremely careful with watch every penny,
Mm.
clip those coupons. And again, that's not the worst mentality, but I think now we've learned a little bit more. Um, we learn a little bit more, and it's not just like I hear a little bit about that these days. So I still respect that, and I'm glad that I was sort of taught that way a little bit, where it's not just frivolous frivolous spending.
Right.
And you start to understand it more as you get older. But then there's the other part about, I read this book. I think you read it too. Um, there, John. I think you read it too, but it's called Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Yeah.
A lot of
Yeah.
people I know have read that, or it's a popular book, anyways. But one of the things I always remember in that book, I didn't have exactly the same experience as the author, but it resonates because it's when he talks about, he had basically, long story short, to summarize, this guy, the author that wrote the book, he had grew up having two dads,
You guys, yeah.
right? One of them was his real father, another one was just a close friend of the
Friend.
family.
Exactly. Yeah.
Um, and Rich Dad, his father was his real father was like the kind of poor dad, is what he called him, right? The other one was the rich dad. So it was like the things that they said, the way that they looked at things, right?
Mm.
One of the biggest things that stands out from that book to me was, because what I heard was like this sort of the poor dad
And I'll tell
mentality.
you mine. I'll tell you mine as well.
Oh yeah, cool. Mine was, you know, having your parents saying, "We can't afford this. How can we afford this?" Right? That how can we afford this question? Where you look at the people that are making that money and they're like, yeah, instead of we can't afford it, okay, you can't afford it. You know that at that moment, what can we do so that we can afford it? Right? If you want that, what can you do to get it? Like how are you going to go about getting it?
And that
That was
right
my takeaway.
and that right there is the mindset change.
Yeah.
Mindset difference.
Mm.
Um, so first of all, Sean, I don't appreciate you going into my brain and seeing the exact same thing out and saying.
Yeah.
Um, so I took the exact same thing, and that was actually really impactful for me because there was times where I wanted to do something, and I was like, ugh. And this is years after reading that book. This is
Mm.
years after, and I realized I had a fear relationship with money. In
Yeah.
other words, if I buy this, I won't have enough for tomorrow. If I do this, then I'll lack over here. So I reversed it. I took a course. It was a program a couple of years ago, I think 2019, with
Mm.
a group of other people. Basically, it was all about mindset,
Right.
business, changing the way you look at the world and money. Now, great program. It was with a gentleman in Toronto. His name is Noel Walrond. Noel
Okay.
Walrond.
Right.
Super, super guy. Like he will blast your brain when it comes to money. Um,
Ouch. That sounds like it
yeah. So it was a cut right.
is.
There's a metal plate right here. You
Yeah,
know.
let me
Um,
teach you about money. Okay, man. Okay. I get
so
it. I get it. I get it. I get
again,
it.
um, you know, and basically he taught me basically, stop being afraid to do
Mm.
things. Start dreaming big. Um, and I wanna move to.
What was his name again, man? Just so in case I know
Yeah.
I got it, but just in case anybody listening.
His name is Noel. So Noel.
Yeah.
Then Walrond, Walrond.
Right.
Fantastic guy. Like
Is
if you just know him on a one-to-one basis, fantastic guy.
is he like,
Um,
and not to take away too much more, but is he like, who was he? Like you said, you met this guy. Is he a banker? Is he a businessman? What is his?
yeah, so he's basically like a mindset coach.
Okay.
And his organization is I can't recall the name right now, but if you Google that name, I'm sure he'll pop up.
Right.
Um, but we are simply, one thing he taught me was basically like just opening up yourself and dreaming big,
Mm.
like bigger than your school and your parents and your community said was possible,
Right.
right? There's a guy who was like came up from nothing but all he had was some old basketball shoes and a basketball, and now he's in the NBA, right?
Right.
And the thing about the mindset is that we attract things to us. The way I know that is one thing he mentioned was, have you ever thought about a song that you're like, man, I haven't heard that song in a long time? And then 2 weeks later, it's on the radio. Or you're thinking about somebody and then they call you. It's
Right.
like that's how the mindset works.
Yeah.
And you've got to understand that the billionaires and millionaires in our society, they have that mindset. Like
Mhm.
there's a reason why we say, well, why are the rich always getting richer? It's not that they're getting richer, it's that they're expanding their mind more and more. But I want to read something to you from something that Elon Musk said
Okay.
at one point. He
Yeah.
said,
I've heard of that guy.
yeah, yeah, I think he works down at Walmart. Um, he said, stop being patient and start asking yourself, how do I accomplish my 10-year plan in 6 months? That's a mindset issue right there.
Yeah.
So he says that you will probably fail, but you will be a lot further ahead of the person who simply accepted that it was going to take 10 years. That's it.
That makes
Um,
sense to me, man.
so I tend to dream big and I get into trouble for that.
Yeah.
I tend to, go into big deals and I'll get in trouble for that. And what I mean is, like, there's a lot of risk, a lot of pressure, a lot of stress when you go big. There's a lot.
Right.
Um, but I realized that by doing that, I'm a lot further ahead. Even though I failed at the ultimate goal, I was still further ahead than where I was sitting originally.
Yeah. Yeah. I
And
mean, I think it comes. Go ahead. Sorry, man.
yeah, and it causes me to like be less afraid. And I realized that none of this stuff that we're ever like thinking is is it possible, like buying a real estate property for like a rental property. You're thinking, where's the money gonna come from? You know what? Just start. The money will come because you will force yourself to figure out ways. And we could talk about like how to find money,
Yeah.
um, but it's all possible. All
Yeah. I
of it.
think it comes down. Yeah. I think it comes down to like that thought, right? Where if you don't, and it's very true. We've all probably heard this, but I think once you start doing it, and again, not to say that, um, as a disclaimer, I'm not a millionaire
You are.
yet.
You are. You are.
I
You are.
can be,
You are.
right? I mean, I may not be, even if it's not necessarily, talking about you have to be a millionaire, but just you have some sort of goal that you want to achieve. Um, this right now we're talking about like financially, like to get there, you kind of do, it sounds, some people might say it sounds cheesy or cliche, but you got to believe it. And it sounds like simple as like, oh, it's not that simple, but that's the first step, right?
It's the first step.
Believing you can get there. And
Yeah.
anything that you do, um, kind of alluding to what you were saying there, John, is if you want to do something, you got to take that risk. You got to take that risk. Because I've found myself personally, again, when you're talking about going back to way back, us doing those events and things like that, starting out, and then me going on with R&R events now, like sometimes it's just taking that step. And it was the same sort of a thing, like even with doing something like this podcast, like you have something in your mind and you're like, you know what, I wonder, that would be kind of cool if I could do this. I think most people don't take that step and actually like, okay, then do it, right? Like, what would be cool, like even something like, this is maybe not money related, but maybe it is a little bit. Right now in the pandemic, it's a little different, but it's someone saying, what would be cool, where I would really love to go? I would really love to travel to France. I've always thought it would be cool to do that. So instead of just, and that's excellent. That's great thought to have. You want to go to this place, visit, great. But then what do you need to do to get there? Like you need to like start kind of breaking it down, right? Like even if you're like, okay, well, you know, it's going to cost you $1,000, let's say, just as a rough number. It probably doesn't cost that, but let's say it costs you $1,000 to fly out there. I mean, you start looking, right? You start looking at either packages or what you can do. You do a little bit of research. You take that first step, and that, you know, assuming that you're working, take that first step, and that next paycheck that you get, take $100 or $200 and say, put that away. That's for France. So it's not impossible, right? Because then otherwise, the other part is that this quote, I'm not going to get it right exactly. I've heard it and you've seen it, also probably seen it before somewhere, where they say right now, someone right now who is not as skilled as you or as talented as you is doing something that you want to do at this moment, or they've reached this goal that you're talking about, right? And again, it doesn't have to be material things. Some people that makes them feel good, whatever it is, or some sort of a goal. But, you know, I'm using it as an example. If you say that you would like to, you know, move in this area or live in this type of a home, you see somebody that's, you know, that people are doing that, right? Even someone as big as we were talking about Elon Musk, or, you know, your Jeff Bezos and things like that. I mean, we might not all be able to do the exact same thing at that same level, but they started somewhere too. So it's not the what I'm trying to say is it's not unattainable,
Yeah,
right? Because somebody has done it, and even not putting Jeff Bezos and them aside, I mean, someone's done it that's not Jeff Bezos, that's not that you want that trip, that vacation, you want, you know, you want to be living a certain lifestyle, you don't want to be having to pay so many bills or worry about bills so much. There's someone that's done it. Um, and if you get a chance, speak with these people, or speak with a coach like you have there, John, right?
yeah,
I mean, so I don't know, that's how I think about it, is that mindset. I agree with you. You got to start somewhere. You got to actually just take that first step. And if without any risk, there's the higher the risk, the higher the potential reward. But then,
that's
yeah,
it.
you can fail, but you just got to learn. I mean, I can quote so many people, but without sort of dropping a lot of names, it's just like you have to. It's like, oh, and this person said, and that person said, but
Right.
just, I don't know, man. It just something that I started thinking in that mindset a while back now. So it's uh if I want to be focused on what I'm saying again, and more personal to me, with starting something like the R&R events stuff, it was just like, had it in my head, you know, someone might have mentioned like, yeah, I remember you guys used to do those parties back in the day. It would be kind of cool if that happened right now, you know, if there was something, you know, what we need something like this for, you know, more mature crowd. We need something like, and everybody would be like, yeah, yeah. And I'm thinking like, why don't I just do it? Why don't we just try? Like, let's start. I'm gonna start with one phone call. Let's book this place
Yeah.
and see what happens. And if it doesn't happen, I've had some events that didn't go so well, but at least I tried. And now it's built up,
But I, I,
right? And you learn.
I think with everything you're saying, I'm always thinking this whole mindset, like what's the problem? And I think it's fear.
Mm,
It's fear, and I want things to be perfect. I want to know everything. I want to understand 360 of how this whole thing works. But shut up and just do it.
mm,
Nike to me has the most powerful slogan ever,
yeah,
because
it is.
they said just do it. They didn't say just do a feasibility study, or just rethink it,
Right.
or they're like no, 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 like just do it. And failure, everybody understand, failure is not the opposite of success. And that was something we were taught, right? Failure is the opposite of success. But I have now come to understand that failure is part of the continuum of success.
Right.
I have
Right.
lost some serious cash, serious money. Like to me, it's serious. And I was depressed about it. I was hurt about it. I felt dumb. And I remember someone said to me, you know what, Kwam, don't feel that way. All these big boys you're talking about, they lost even more than that. Their
Oh
businesses
yeah.
have, you
It's
know,
11 o'clock.
that was me. Their business have failed. They have gone bankrupt, but they've
Yeah.
learned from that over and over and over. I was like, yeah. So to continue, I
Yeah.
want to switch. I want to switch gears, though, Sean.
Yeah. Okay.
I want to switch gears. I want
Let's
to talk about um, professional athletes, actors, and business people
right.
versus the employee, right? Versus the
Mhm.
employee. So my question to you, Sean, is what is the difference between a professional athlete, an actor, a business person, and an employee in your mind?
Wow, that's a good one, man. Well, you know what? I think people look at these people as, and to their credit, yeah, they had to do a lot to get where they are, and not everybody can do what these people do, right? If you're talking to people in the NBA and so on, it's they've got there because they have a certain talent, right? And but what happens, what I see happen with NBA players, well, before I even get into that, I'm gonna try to go straight and narrow and answer your question directly. So the
Mhm.
difference between NBA players, business people, employees. I mean, players are essentially employees, right? When you're looking at professional athletes, they are employees. Um, Business, but they can be kind of a combination of both. Business
Let me,
people
let me
are
let me put this question a little better.
okay.
What I mean is, I'm grouping professional athletes, business people, and
Mhm.
actors to one group,
Oh, okay, okay.
right?
And you want to know
And
the
then I'm
difference between
saying
them and employees.
versus an employee,
I
right?
see, I see. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So let's yeah, that's what I'm trying to say.
Okay, so well, the difference between them then I would say is, we're talking about professional athletes and so on, is they look at themselves, I feel like, as a brand,
Mm,
right? And they need to build themselves up. They look at, like, the more I do, the more valuable I am, and I have control over that, right? They have control
right.
over what's going to happen to them, and so on. An employee, that employee mindset, uh, the way that I think about it is, you go to work, get you start at 8:30, get there at 8:30, get there for just before 8:30, sit down at your desk, you go through the routine. As things come in, you're more reactive, right? Sean, I need you to do this. Okay. Yeah. Oh, Sean, stop doing that. We also need this now. Okay. Yeah, we also need that. All right.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, and every 2 weeks you get your check, and it will be the same if you're on salary. Maybe if you get overtime, then it's a little bit more. But you're counting on that. You're counting on, you're looking at, well, also, I don't really like this job, but if I stay in, I get these benefits, and I get this good retirement out of it. So it's pretty comfortable. I guess I can, that word right there, though, I learned, and I see it in your eyes too, John. Quamatron, I can see into your soul, my brother. See into your soul. But I get when you say comfortable, when it talks about, I've learned that's, I used to think the opposite, right? Um, but it was a long time ago. I think, again, like you said, and thank you for reminding me that we've had that mindset for a long time, even when we were
A
younger.
long time.
But at one point, a long time ago, when I'm probably even just starting to work part-time jobs, it didn't take very long for that mindset to change for me. But I think when you think of the word comfortable in a job, when people are like, I'm comfortable, I almost, I don't quite cringe, but it's kind of like, oh, okay, well,
Yeah.
that means you're just kind of almost settling, right? You're kind of settling and you're kind of saying that, well, you're going to get kind of take what you get. And if you do, I mean, that's fine for some people. Not everybody wants to be an entrepreneur or start different things, but I think it's good to have, I don't know, I think, we've talked about mental health, touched on it a little bit for different things, and maybe we'll get into more of that on some other shows. But I think for your own mental health, just us as human beings, right? I think it's just good to have your own, at some point, thing that really drives you, that motivates you, right? Um, or something that you have an interest in, right? Um, some people, I think, see their job as just, again, just being comfortable and whatever, and they don't like it and they're miserable, but they'll stay there because it's comfortable.
And they
But
owe,
if, right,
a
yeah,
lot, right? So
yeah. But if you can see that, there's two ways to go about it, I think. And this actually comes from, I remember hearing this actually from my brother Daryl, right? Um, he said to me a while years ago, I think, that you can either look at your job. If you don't like your job, you can. There's a way that you could look at it. You could look at it as a means to an end, right? I think that's okay if people are that in that situation where they don't really like their job, but you know what? They know they're using it to. This makes them the money. They don't really have another aspiration, but they know that this is going to make them the money to be able to go on these. They want to go on 3 trips a year, and this job allows them to do that. And they don't really. The key is though they don't hate that job. They're not miserable in it, because then that doesn't really matter. I mean, doing something that you hate to do something that you like, it doesn't make sense to me. If it's okay, you're okay with it, then that's fine, right? The other kind of person I think um, that I prefer for me and yourself, John, as well. Again, not everybody's entrepreneurs, but I think if you have an idea
mhm.
about doing something that you like to do, something that makes you happy, that you could think of how can you make a business out of it? How can you make money doing that?
Yeah,
Right? And
yeah,
you've heard the saying, and this should be called the quotes episode, because I feel like I'm gonna be quoting numerous things without. This is probably an old quote, but if you've heard the thing that if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life,
right.
right? It doesn't mean that it's never going to be hard or difficult. There's not going to be any challenges, but it's like when you're doing it, the time can fly, right? When you can get into a groove doing it, you like what you're doing, and almost anything you could find you could end up making money doing, right? I
Yeah,
mean, the money's kind of secondary, but it could come, and we all need money to live, but
right.
that's how it is for me.
Um, you're very right. It's an interesting journey. The way that I look at professional athletes, business people, and actors versus employees is that the former, the actors and business people, they bet on themselves, right? They bet on themselves. So,
Right.
and they're paid based on their value.
Mm.
So I scored 2 points average last year. I may not get another contract next year. Every movie that I
Maybe.
was, every movie that I was in last 2 years, you know, just barely broke even, right? What else? All my businesses, we're making $10 a year. So you're really a value based person when you go into that world. Like you're betting on yourself all the time. I find an employee, however, they're transferring all the risk to the business person, the business owner.
Right.
They're transferring all the risk. I mean, however, they do have some risk because if that business person does not get those value, they don't have the numbers, they may be out of a job in the sense of being laid off.
Right.
But it was probably for me, I decided to go the realm of like the former, like the business, probably in 2014, 2015. I left my IT job and I went into basically cybersecurity. I had an amazing, amazing mentor. His name is Jason. I call him Jay Williams. I mean, Jay Millions. The man is he's a phenomenal man. I praise, our friendship forever. Amazing guy. And he just taught me so many things. But I got to
Hey
a
man,
point where
just
I started, sorry?
sorry to interrupt, but just as an aside, you mentioned these people. If people listening, we always get ideas while we're doing this. We need to have some couple of these guys on here, man, if we can.
I've actually invited
Yeah.
Jay Millions. So
Okay.
he's thinking, I think he'll definitely join us.
Okay.
Um,
Sorry, go on about your experience.
yeah. So I decided to go into the business side of consulting or
Mhm.
consulting, and there's a big difference for anyone who does not know. When I'm an employee, if I get paid $3,000 as an employee, there's taxes taken out before I get my 3,000. So I may end up getting like 2,200,
Mhm.
1,900 out of the 3,000.
Right.
But when I'm consulting and I make 3,000, I get 3,000.
Right.
And then I start writing off. And writing off just means expenses that you created or you had in your company that you're now deducting from your revenue. So I made $100,000 this year, but I also spent $80,000. Well, my company had a net revenue of 20,000.
Right.
And the cool thing is, I'm only paying taxes on the 20,000.
Right.
As an employee making $100,000, I'm getting taxed on the whole 100,000.
Right.
That's the difference. There's obviously a lot more other things,
Right.
um, but once I started learning this, and this is what my man taught me, Jay Millions taught me, everything changed.
Hmm.
But I think when we talk about mindset, we also have to talk about passive income.
Passive
Some
income.
passive income. Some are, like basically with an employee is also trading their time for money.
Right.
An employee is trading their time for money, right? 8:30 to 5:30, 9 to 5.
Mhm.
The business people, the actors and the players and all that, they're trading their value for money.
Right.
So, case in point, the NBA player, yes, he's got to play every Monday, Tuesday, and Friday. Yeah. But did you know these guys are also from that game? Brands are saying, like Colgate, Crest are saying, hey, do you want to like come into a commercial for us? And Nike, they're making money elsewhere. And the money they make from that, they may work once for that brand and get paid residually over and over.
Right. If they're
So
smart and they have a good agent, they'll be laughing. They don't need that
yeah,
the professional sports money is secondary, right?
yeah. So there's stories about NBA players who are retired and they're still owed like 30 million. They're
Mhm.
owed. This is not pension. This is like their contract. I know certain reasons why they're owed. And these weren't like the LeBron James or Michael Jordan. These are like the lower level guys. And
So
sometimes
just
contracts, I'm
to
like, how did you get that contract?
right. And you're talking about just to clarify. So you said they're owed, not they. Well, I guess there's both. There's the ones that are owed 30 million, and they're the ones that find themselves in debt after
In
they're done
debt.
too. That's a whole nother story. But so I wasn't sure which one you were talking about. You were talking about they not
Oh,
that they owe, but they are like that money is still going to be coming to them after they're done.
right, from their team
Okay, cool.
because of their contract.
All
But
right.
Sean, I want to shift and talk about passive income and maybe
Please.
just get some of your thoughts on
Okay.
perhaps maybe one or two or three passive income ideas that someone
Uh-huh.
today can say, hey, Sean's got a point there. Do you have
Like
any passive income ideas?
you know what? I've heard, well, not a little bit. Um, this is something that I've kind of researched a little bit. This passive income, I hear a lot about it these days. And I know that you know what? I think that there's some, that statement, you kind of have to take it with a grain of salt, right? Because I think there's passive income, but really when people think passive, a lot of people are thinking, man, I'm gonna be, and I see these advertisements on YouTube, and it's funny because now we're on YouTube now, but I see these
Ooh.
these ads and stuff that pop up, and people are
Oh
like,
my goodness.
you know, I make money. I don't even have to work anymore. You know what? What I like to do is, this is how my day goes. I wake up, I start my coffee. I take a look at my laptop. It says you just made $500. I'm like, that's cool. Take a shower. Come out of the shower. I just made $2,000. Wouldn't you like that for you? Click this
Yes.
link below. It's easy. Click this link below and you'll find out how to do it. And also, buy my course and my books, and you'll make even more money.
Those
So it's
guys.
like,
Oh man.
usually those guys are like in the background. They got they got a mansion in the background, a
Rented.
Lamborghini, a Porsche, and a Range Rover lined
Rented.
up in the driveway.
Like
They're
all
like,
rented.
"Oh, hi! I didn't expect you to be there."
And the girl in the back is rented.
I was
Can
just
I go
hanging out in
home
my
now?
drive.
Can I
I was
go
just
home
hanging out in
now?
my driveway, and you see somebody else in the house. Who's that guy? That doesn't
And
look like it's his house.
another family is like, get on camera, get a picture.
Shh, Billy, he has 10 more minutes. Okay, we get to go back inside our place soon. Just go, get out of the shot. But anyways, we're talking about passive income though. But I think
Yeah,
passive income, it's somewhat, like I said, grain of salt, because you got to do the work first, right? And I haven't done a whole. I have some ideas, man. I have some ideas on some things. I'm always,
right.
my brain is like going nonstop. Some other kind of, if you want to call it passive income type of ideas, but I think passive income to me is like setting up different streams of income, right? Like eventually, yes, like if you can have some of them, it's about making your money work for you, right? I'm not a banker anymore. I mean, I've worked for a major bank and stuff before, which I learned a lot of stuff with about investments and so on. That's how I think of that kind of as passive income. If you're actually investing your money, this is another thing, going back to when we talked about our experiences and how we were brought up. I think our parents knew, like, stocks and mutual funds and all that stuff was always, those things were always around. But I think because of how they were brought up,
Brought up.
I think it was still a lot of like, keep it in the savings account,
Yeah.
or keep some in a safe place in the house somewhere, you know. But I think when I think of passive income, I think that's like those things, like stocks and so on, stocks, investments, if you're thinking like long-term investments. And just as a point, um is not the type of investments where you're like, if you want to do that day trader kind of stuff, that's like high risk, could be high return, but also high stress. But I'm talking about investing in something and like leaving it there, like thinking about like
Yeah.
10-year type of investments, right?
Yeah.
Because what I started doing recently too is like putting some money aside. Great app. You should be getting paid for this. Well Simple Trade allows anybody to just get in where you don't have to have like $10,000 to start or anything like that. But putting money aside, putting money into investments, into companies that you believe in, or you do a little bit of research on, or you find out that these companies this will pay you. You invest in this particular stock and it'll pay you dividends, right? That's investment, because once you put that money in, then you're getting money back. Your money's growing, right? You still have to kind of actively. That's probably the closest to passive income as I can think of, right? So that's one, putting your money into something like stocks and leaving it long term,
Yeah,
right? Doing index funds, whatever. You can find out more about that stuff on all over again, Google, wherever. But
yeah. I
that's
mean,
passive income, right?
yeah. And I mean, you
Um,
can also just Google passive income. I've got a bunch I can share with you right now, but there's so
right.
many.
Oh
There's,
yes, tons
yeah,
of, like, there's ways you could make money on Amazon and so on,
yeah.
right? And I think that might have been one of the ones where Shopify, right? Those are some of the ones I think when I see where we see the YouTube videos and the
Yeah,
guys make it sound so easy, right? Where I get to an extent, but I think what the initial thing is when we're talking about passive income is making it putting in the work early into something and having multiple income streams, right? So when you set up that Shopify or that Amazon selling products, you're still gonna have to keep track of it. If you want it to grow, you're still gonna have to kind of be on it.
yeah,
But once you get it going,
yeah.
I think that the idea is that,
And it
yeah,
starts going. Yeah,
exactly. It gets easier, like almost like anything else, right? But don't think, my advice when people look into passive income, and you'll see it when you Google and do some research. But yeah, I don't feel like it's gonna be like that guy just kicking up his feet saying, you know what, Shopify passive income, all it takes is 5 minutes to set up an account, and you could be making thousands of dollars a month.
and look at
All you
my
have to
student here, my student Billy, and Billy just made $10,000 yesterday. So I think the dangerous thing about these YouTube ads
Yeah,
is they give you hope.
right.
They give you the exact same thing the lottery gives you, right? And hope
Exactly.
can be very dangerous and
Yeah,
also very soothing.
right.
They're giving you that potential, and that's what
Right.
they're selling you on. That's it.
Yeah,
I
they
bought
make you
the
want to do.
courses. I bought the courses.
Yeah.
I'm like, wait a minute, it's not as easy as you were talking about. My
Yeah.
money is gone. So those are the guys who are making the real money. The real
Oh yeah,
money.
they're
Yeah,
making
they're
it
making
off the course.
off the course. I'm going to tell you something here. So, I've looked into passive incomes. Sean and I, I mean, we're not there yet, but one of them is a podcast, right? One was a podcast. One is you can create an app as well, right? An app that sells stuff or does something for people. Shopify and Amazon, you can sell things on there as well. You can also do investing. If you're interested in an investing opportunity that is doing tremendous, email us and I'll give you the 401 on that one. Another big one, this one is a bit more cost intensive, but there are ways to do it with zero money down, which is real estate investing. There are
Yeah,
ways
I've
to
heard
do it
some
with
of that.
zero money down. It's a little bit tricky, but it exists. What else? You can do a training program. You can do a course, a training course, and then upload on Udemy, right? You can also
Right.
rent your unused clothing, the clothing you don't use, or your car.
Wait, did you say rent it?
Rent it out. There's a way, yeah.
Rent your clothing?
Yeah, a way to rent out your clothing.
You got to make sure
Yeah,
that's
people
washed.
that, yeah, because listen, you might have like this very expensive sweatshirt that's like like $500, like very expensive Gucci or Balenciaga or some of those weird names. And
Right.
people are like, I can't afford to buy that. That's $500, but I'll rent it for 2 days. So I'm going to an
Really?
event.
Eh? I did
Yeah,
not know that. I had no idea you could rent clothes. Because when you said that, that's why I had to clarify it. I'm like,
yeah.
rent. I
You
think
can
you.
rent
I think. I think
clothes.
you. I think you made an error there, John. You said actually rent clothes, but you
Yeah,
mean actually renting your clothes out.
yeah, rent out your clothing. Now, this is obviously high-end clothing.
Yeah.
Renting out your shoes, renting out your car,
Yep.
renting out your home, right, on Airbnb. These are
I've seen
all
that.
passive income ideas.
The
Uh,
car one I've seen recently a lot,
yeah,
or
because
not a lot. There's just a few things popping up here and there about, like, yeah, rent your own car. I think that's a good idea too. Yeah.
that one is with Truro. Truro.
Truro.
Truro.
Okay. There's
I
another
don't
one that I saw here recently. I can't remember the name. It wasn't that, but yeah, there's a few companies like that. Especially, I think, if you have something like, again, you have a high end vehicle, people
yeah,
might want it for, you drive a Mercedes, or you drive a a Tesla X or something like that, Model X, and somebody just wants it for a day. They want it for their like
right.
grad or something like that, right? So uh,
Now, those car apps, they can be very lucrative because some of us are renting out their cars for $20 a day, $500 a day, $130 a day, and if your car payments are 500, do the math. You're like, I just got to rent this bad boy out for 10 days, and this car has been, paid for itself. I mean, that same concept goes with real estate. Your
mhm,
mortgage is 1,000, rent it out for 15 days. You're at break even. So there's ways to do it.
yeah,
And the cool thing is with real estate, as you buy more properties, your net worth goes like this, right?
hmm,
Now, Sean, I disagreed with you earlier and said you are a millionaire, meaning there are different types of millionaires. I didn't know that. There are
okay,
different types of millionaires. There's cash millionaire where they physically have $1 million
right,
physically. Then there are paper millionaires. In other words, they have stocks,
right,
right? Then there are asset millionaires. In other words, they have real estate, but it's not physical cash, a million, but the net worth of it is a million and so forth. So
right,
there are different ways to count a million.
mm,
Um, I'm very passionate about business and all that kind of stuff because I woke up years ago realizing I hate my situation.
okay.
I hate my situation. I went through a divorce, got cleaned out, and I was just like, man, this super sucks.
I hear you, man.
And I decided right then and there, I want to not feel like this anymore.
Hmm.
And I have tried different things, but the point is, I am far further than where I once was. And
Exactly.
my net worth grew, my mindset changed, my world changed. But one thing I can tell you is when your mindset changes, your friends also change. In other words, you can't share everything with certain friends. They will look at you funny and they're like, excuse me, Mr. I own property, because
Yeah.
their mindset isn't yours. So the other thing about mindset that we're talking about here is also surrounding yourself with the right people. It's
Yeah. Very important, man.
imperative. If you hang around that cousin who just hates the rich or hates business people, you can never talk about what's going on in your world. Or hey, I found a new stock. Or I found
Yeah.
something that man, like you put $10,000 in here, and brother, you're done. He's like,
Yeah.
it's all scam, and you're like, all right, okay,
Hmm.
let me just
Yeah.
back away. I'll see you next Christmas. I have
Yeah.
a whole year to just get away from someone like you. And that's one thing Noel Wallen taught me was you need to really be careful of who you even talk to about your business.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Some of it is I think some of it is, well, there's that very obvious part is the intellectual property kind of thing. If you're planning a business and saying, "Hey man, I'm planning this and this and this." If you speak to the wrong person, you might find out like, "Hey, they opened up a wait, that was my idea." Right?
Right.
There's that part of it, but then it's also, yeah, I think you're absolutely right. It's as much as again, um I think, going through things helps you. I don't recommend anybody going through like, I mean, if but it happens, life happens, right? But I think that you'll find that with a lot of entrepreneurs, they've been through some tough times, and that sort of motivates them to say, I don't want this anymore, I'm not going to let this happen anymore, or I'm going to change things, right? But I think yeah, when you talk about that mentality, yeah, when you talk about that mentality, it's tough. You're gonna have to. I didn't want to believe it when I first read it, but it's true. Like you're gonna have to, some friends or people that you know along the way, if you're looking at changing your mindset, getting better, um, whatever it is, not even just money wise, but I mean, I've found that this is sort of, not that I know everything, but I've seen it. Didn't want to believe it when I read it, that, but I've seen it too many times, and it says you may have to lose some friends. Um, there's, thankfully, hasn't been too. It's been very few that I can think of. For me, I think we, you and I, John, I think we surrounded ourselves with some pretty good people, but there are some people that just won't. I mean, if someone has a negative mindset or something, like you may not necessarily lose them totally, but maybe you just won't spend as much time with them. You'll maybe keep in touch with them here and there, but so you might not lose them totally, but then you also have to find the people, like John, I'll say you're one of these people for me, for sure. I mean, you and I can talk about this stuff, right? Other people that we know, you can't really, if you see them, you can't be like, yeah, man, you know what? I was looking up, there's a couple of business opportunities that sound really interesting. They might be like, man, just turn on the game, man. What are you talking about? Right? Like, I know you're like, okay, well, then that's not a bad thing. You want to watch the game, you want to talk about what happened last night and who scored the most points.
Right,
And
right,
if they should have called that foul or not, cool, we can talk about that. I just know that you just know in your mind, I'm not going to talk business with this person. This person's just, they want to talk about the game and they want to talk about that foul. We're going to talk about that with this person, right? And
right.
yeah.
And in 2016, I came for a trip. I came to visit Winnipeg, and I won't mention the person's name. It's a mutual
Mm.
friend. And I remember.
I'll write it down and I'll write it down so people on YouTube can see it, and I'll just put it up slowly, like Jeff.
There's something that this friend, said to us.
Mm.
But I had a get together, and I said, listen. Well, by the way, Noel Walren's company is my dream work. Sorry, mydreamswork.com. Mydreamswork.com. Super guy. I highly recommend him to everyone. But I remember I was having a get together at my first Airbnb rental. First Airbnb rental. I was so excited. And I said, Samantha, like I'm renting right now. I hate it. I want to buy. And this person said, you know what, man, you don't want to rent. You don't want to buy. Come on, it's stupid. You want to just keep renting, and something breaks, just go to a landlord. And I was like, you know what though? When I leave that place, I get nothing. I get no dividends, no profit, nothing. But if I buy and I sell that home, I make profit, right? I also have equity if I want to get equity out and buy something else. And at that very moment, I realized I could never talk to that person no longer about money, about business, about mindset. Like you just got cut off. I still love you, but we are not going down that conversational path again, period. Because I think one of the most difficult things in life is to talk about someone who has not just a different mindset, but maybe even different beliefs or values on a topic or a whole range of things. I just leave you in that area, right? Um, so, in conclusion to my whole journey with this whole mindset has really been about what are your personal goals in life? Like start right there.
Right.
So what I mean is if your goal is to have $5 million by the time you're 50 and you have a full-time job making $50,000 a year,
Right.
right.
You got to do something else.
You got
Well,
something else.
not that you have to quit your job,
Right. I'm not saying that.
but you got to, yeah. I'm not sorry, I'm interrupting, but I see where you're going. Yeah, you got to add,
Right.
you got to do something to make that happen. Something
That's
else,
it.
right?
It's the same way where you want to, let's say, have time freedom. In other words, you want to work just 4 hours a week. You want to travel anywhere you want, from Bali to Ghana to Czechoslovakia, whenever you want. You gotta say, well, will my business that makes me $1 million a month do that? Yeah, right. Like, it's about your goals. So once you know your goals, and then you say, wow, is that attainable? Well, first of all, almost everything is attainable. So then the other side is also removing that impossibility quotient out of your mind, saying, well, what is impossible? So what Noel taught us was, impossible really is nothing. And impossible is really whatever you put in your mind saying that's impossible.
Right.
And just to finalize what I'm saying, Sean, is that if I ever told Sean, yeah, Sean, you know what? I can't climb that tree. Sean should reply with, I agree with you.
Yeah.
If I say, Sean, I can't tie my shoes. No, I can tie my shoes. Sean should say, I agree with you. The reason why I'm saying that is because whatever you think is possible or not possible is the right answer.
Right.
So the moment you start believing something can happen or not, that's how it works.
Agreed,
That's
man.
how it works. So mindset. Um, this is also one thing where I would even recommend you get a what's called a mastermind group.
Okay, yeah, I've heard of those.
A
I've
mastermind
heard of
group.
those.
It's people who are businessing, who are doing something that you're doing, or they're moving forward basically.
Right.
They meet once a week, and they're like, so Sean, this week I plan to like make 30 phone calls to potential prospects.
Mhm.
Last week I made 45 phone calls, and I got 5 people ready to sign up.
Right.
Okay, okay. All right, John. Well, listen, we'll talk to you next week, and we'll see how your 30 phone calls went. And so far, what's your revenue looking like for next quarter? I'm looking around like 300,000.
Mhm.
Awesome. And then what happens is, in our group, everyone's encouraging each other,
Right.
and we're solving each other's problems, right, through advice.
Right.
This
Right.
guy's in telecom, this guy's into health, this guy's into IT, but we're in the same mindset.
Right. Right. No, that's true, man. And I agree with you there too. Just to close off too. I mean, that reminded me. There's mastermind groups. There's meetup. If you guys have a meetup, anybody can get the meetup app. I think it's just called Meetups.
Yeah, yes, meetups.
If you put it in your app store on your iPhone or your Android, I'm sure it has it. Anyways, like, I was part of one of these meetup groups too, and they are helpful
They
to
are.
just finding like-minded people. Um, and that's one way you can do it. If you don't have people that surround you that right away that can help you, but it also helps when just if I'm looking at just sort of closing advice, I would say, like, we talked about sometimes disassociating yourself from some people, but also, yes, encouraging, like surrounding yourself with those people that encourage you, and then maybe like listening to them, because we too often, I think, we listen to those voices, and even the people that are sometimes close to us,
Mm.
that are like well intentioned, but if I was to think before I got into and it's still okay to pursue your passion. I'll say, before I say this, pursue your passion. You can still do it while you're working a full-time job. You don't have to like quit your job. You can do that and then have your passion grow on the side, have other projects, make time for that. And ideally, if you don't like your main job, you can get rid of that. But I'm saying that people are well intentioned may tell you that you can't do something or you shouldn't do something, right? There's one hand that they're looking out for you, right? It might be someone as close as a parent that
Mm.
tells you, well, you know, this internet stuff, uh, or this thing, I heard about this, you got to be careful with that. Maybe you want to do something else. You know, are you sure you want to do this? You want to start a business for yourself? You know what? You don't need that stress. You don't need that stress. Just, get your good stay. You have a good job right now. Keep on doing that. You don't need this other stuff, right? And they're well intentioned for you, but also, I mean, listen to the people that may know you in a different way, right? Again, I keep it going back to me because personally, when I think of the R&R stuff, I'm glad that I actually listen to people. Um, and I get the same feeling even about this podcast too. When people do tell you, people say, you know what? Like, this is for me, this is the key. If I'm talking about the key to this whole podcast that we talked about, for me, these words help. When you hear somebody saying, especially if it's more than one person that says, you know what? I think you really got something there. Like something along those lines, right? Or
Mm,
like, you know what? You are really talented at that. When someone says that, I know what we're inclined to just say, a lot of us are maybe modest, or we think they're just, people are just sort of pulling our leg, but listen to those things. When people say that, like, we're more inclined, a lot of us, to just say like, oh, come on, man. Like, yeah, whatever. I know you're saying that because you're my friend, man. Like, yeah, of
yeah,
course, I'm talented at that. Yeah, I know, whatever. Is this just for fun, man? I'm not doing this, whatever. I'm just gonna do one of these things, or just a quick idea. It was just a stupid idea that I had. Like, don't blow it off when you have that stuff. When you have somebody encouraging you, and especially if you hear it from more than one person, go with it. Because even if you don't might not feel it right away, but other people are seeing it in you. Listen to those people. That would be
right.
my advice. But yeah, it
You're
looks like we're. You have anything else to? I think we kind of gonna want to wrap it up, but
I think we're gonna wrap it up. I think I give my conclusion. You know, start understand what are your goals. Make sure you're surrounding yourself with the right people who
mhm,
have a business mindset, a risk mindset. Um, Believe nothing is impossible.
mhm,
Believe nothing is impossible. Dream so big that it scares you.
right,
Serious. Dream so big that it scares you. Um, you know, be inspired by other people, but don't try and be like other people. Try and be even better. But it's really about you being, the best possible, person that you can be.
mhm,
Um, I've had numerous conversations with Sean about mindset and business, and there's times where I'm pumping Sean up, right? I'm like, man, he can't fail, right? I think when you start doing that to your brothers and you're like your sisters, you cannot fail. If you fail, I fail. And I've had people in my life that have just advised me and been there for me and just guided me. And I have one guy in my life, I call him a power broker. And that term comes from a show called Billions.
right,
Um, Really interesting show. It's about billions, right?
mhm,
But there's a guy in there who's a power broker. In other words, he makes things happen at a very high level. He's deeply, deeply connected. But very interesting show. Give it a chance. It's called Billions. Language warning, a lot of foul mouth in there, but just letting you know it's a really fantastic show. John,
even
I have,
better.
sorry, what's that?
That makes it even better.
Even, it reminds me of probably in the 80s, late 80s and 90s when the tapes and albums started having like explicit lyrics tag on there. They
Right.
got more sales than if they had no tags on there, right? So NWA with their little, explicit warning, explicit lyrics warning is like, oh, I gotta get it. Or you hear a movie that's like, there's nudity in there. Oh, okay, I gotta see it now.
Right.
Um, I just want you to dream, whether it's your home, whether it's your family, whether it's your time, your quality of life. Dream of some really incredible things like go into your bank account one day and then just type in like 5 0 0 0 0 0, right? And then take a snapshot of that on your phone. That's $5 million. Okay, but you were doing it in your checking, like you're transferring money. Basically, there's a way to just type that number in, and then you're like, wow, imagine if my account had that. Or how about another zero? We can have 50 million, or another zero,
Right. Right.
not $500 million. And you're like, well, no one I know even talks like that. I'm like, well, you could be the first.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like we said, this money mindset is, we need to start changing the way we think. And so that's what we've been trying to get across, to you all listening to this and watching this, that we need to kind of change the way we think about money. And a lot of things, a lot of thoughts and ways we think about it have been ingrained in us for a long time. But I mean, there's so much to say. We're so glad that you joined us, today. And again, you can catch us numerous places, more places to come. Uh, Um, we are on, obviously we are on YouTube. Why just search for Why So Serious podcast on YouTube. There's also a link in our Instagram bio, to our YouTube account. Our Instagram is Why So Serious podcast on Instagram. Our email address is the
Uh,
why so serious
but,
dot
but
podcast at gmail.com. Um, we got yet to set up a Facebook account, Facebook page that's going to be coming soon too. So we're just trying to reach you wherever you can reach us, wherever you like to be reached. Sounds kind of,
um,
yeah. Well, then we would like to reach you where you like to listen to us. How about that? Where
how
you can
about
hear
that?
us.
We are growing every week, every month.
Right.
Again, any
Thank
comments? I'd love to hear from you. Um,
Yes.
this is a tremendous platform for us to just share the things that we know, and we are still learning and growing.
Right.
But as we do that with you, it's even better because God willing, one day we're at episode 100. We can all
Hmm.
celebrate together and so on.
Exactly. Exactly. And thank you for joining us. Oh, yeah. There's so many. I'm just going to say quickly. Also, as far as podcasting goes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts. Find us on your favorite, podcast platform, Anchor.fm.
Anchor on that thumb, yeah.
A lot of places. So we are a lot of places, but we will still be more. And we thank
Yeah.
you for joining us. I am out. Thank you.
Comic Con over here. Have a wonderful, wonderful day with your family.
All right. Thank you. And we're out.
All right.